How much sugar have you eaten today? If you're like most people, you probably have no idea. But for the average UK adult, it's at least this much, nearly 60 grams. And if you're young, it's considerably more. As a nation, we're hooked on refined sugar, and we need to kick the habit because it's killing us and it's crippling the NHS. The problem is, when I tell my patients to stop eating sugar, they tell me they can't.
Well, what if they're right? Could sugar really be as addictive as hard drugs?
Amphetamines, cocaine, all those class of drugs affect the same area of the brain.
To find out, I'm going to eat like a sugar junkie.
I am in shock that you are brave enough to do this.
Then go cold turkey and cut sugar out completely.
It tastes like nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I'll be uncovering the secret sugar hidden in the foods we eat every day.
That is how much sugar there is in a litre of cola.
And pushing my body to the limit.
It's really taking its toll on my energy levels.
So join me for all the sugar highs.
My sugar cravings, I'm just like, yes, give me it, give me it, give me it.
And lows.
My bowels have been really affected by this high sugar diet. I keep getting abdominal cramps.
As I embark on the mother of all sugar binges.
This is my idea of heaven.
We all know that obesity is a massive health problem in the UK. The situation got even more serious when we learnt that being overweight increases your chances of dying from COVID-19. A discovery that saw Boris Johnson urge the nation to shed the pounds. But of course, it's not only the virus we need to be concerned about. As a GP specialising in metabolic diseases, I spend about half my time treating people with type 2 diabetes. That's the type of diabetes you're likely to develop if you're overweight, obese, or, like me, eat too much sugar.
A sugar-rich, high-calorie diet can also lead to heart disease and stroke. And obesity costs our economy a staggering £27 billion every year. My colleague Debbie Harris witnesses the damage that poor food choices are doing to her patients every day.
Everybody knows that sugar's not good for you, but telling people don't make any difference, does it? You know, if I start saying, well, do this, do that, do this, that's the last thing they want.
I think that kind of talk kind of flips a switch in their head where they just think, oh, you don't understand me and you're just giving me a one-size-fits-all approach to my diet.
It's hard because I will say to patients, you know, I can understand, I have the same problem as you.
Our time is so restricted as well. And often it can feel like we're just ticking a box, doesn't it? OK, told them about lifestyle changes, told them about diet. But actually telling anyone about diet is never going to change anyone's diet.
Putting a sticking plaster on it for a couple of weeks don't make any difference, does it? And it's very, very hard and demoralising for them. And sometimes I feel really helpless. Do you feel the same?
Yeah. Now, it's all very well Debbie and I talking about how difficult it is to give up sugar, to break dietary habits. But clearly, this isn't working for our patients because they keep coming back with the same problems. Is it just a lack of willpower, or is it that they may be addicted to sugar? The only way I can find out for sure, really, is to walk a mile in their shoes, see what that feels like. Maybe then I'll be able to relate to my patients that bit better.
To achieve that goal, I'm going to conduct an experiment on myself. The NHS recommends we eat no more than 30 grams of added sugar every day. For the next month, I'm going to eat almost 6 times that amount, a teeth-rotting 177 grams of added sugar every single day. To be perfectly honest, I'm secretly looking forward to this.
I know that looks bad. That's mostly there for my guests, I'm going to say.
I already have a sweet tooth, and now I have an excuse to eat even more sugar. Like most people, I honestly don't know how much sugar I get through daily.
I've got some cakes and biscuits and that kind of thing, and nuts and more biscuits and more cakes. OK, we'll close that because that's slightly embarrassing.
But I do know that if I want to enter the Premier League of sugar eaters, I need to seriously up my game.
Over the next 4 weeks, I have to match the amount of sugar the top 2.5% of men my age are eating every single day. So every single day, the bare minimum has to be 177 grams, the equivalent of 44 cubes of sugar or 44 teaspoons of sugar. Now, if we add all that up, this is what it looks like. That is it. That is what I'm going to be eating in terms of sugar over the next 4 weeks. Now, looking at that, that's a hell of a lot of sugar. I want to see what that looks like every single day. So let's see. 1, 2.
Remember, this is the amount of added sugar that the top 2.5% of men my age are putting away daily.
Oh, here we go, last one. 44, wow. That is what I'm going to be eating every single day. It looks absolutely disgusting.
This experiment is potentially hazardous for my health.
Oh, hi, Becky. Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
So, before I start, I'm getting myself checked over.
Just a sharp scratch, isn't it? That's what you're supposed to say. Best just get it over and done with.
Try not to mess your hair up.
Thanks.
So your height is 1.63, and weight is 69 kilograms.
We'll see what this sugar diet does to me. It might break through that 70 barrier, which I'm a bit nervous about.
I am in shock that you are brave enough to do this. I think, are you nervous?
I wasn't nervous, but I think now that it's come to doing it, I really am nervous.
It's strange for the rest of us because we know how fit you are. We'll get emails from you at like 5:30 in the morning saying, I've just finished my morning run. It'll be really interesting to see what the effect on a really physically fit person will be. So you've had some blood tests?
Yes, I have.
So your kidneys are working fantastically. Liver is really important as well, isn't it, for detoxifying, getting rid of all of the waste products. Your liver is functioning perfectly.
The liver's really sensitive to changes, isn't it?
And very, very important in sugar metabolism, so it'll be very interesting to see whether you can upset that. I think you will.
Right, so I'm going to prepare breakfast. So normally I would be having some Weetabix, something fairly healthy to kickstart the day, but because I have to hit that 177 grams of sugar a day, I am going to have a nice chocolatey cereal with lots of sugar in. So let's see what this is like.
On top of my massive daily dose of added sugars,
It feels unhealthy just by looking at it. Milk, here we go.
I'll continue to eat all the naturally occurring sugars found in fruit, veg, and dairy.
There's even sugar in this milk. Yeah, there's 5 grams of sugar in this per 100 mil, and I'm probably going to put a couple of 100 mils in there, maybe even more. I'm going to be buzzing after this breakfast. Let's go. It's not very nice, to be honest. It doesn't taste of anything apart from like cardboard or sugary cardboard, I would say. I think I'm really going to struggle to finish this bowl of cereal, to be honest. Yeah, it's pretty grim, but it's only day 1, so I need to be more positive, I think. So yeah, I'm going to be more positive. It's only day 1, it's only meal 1. So come on, Amir, sort yourself out. Come on.
Most of us eat too much sugar, but what happens when our consumption gets really out of control?
If I'd had a gun, I would have shot myself. And my consultant came in and basically said it's going to have to come off.
That's Colin Rattray, someone who knows all about how dangerous a high sugar diet can be.
I was a nightclub manager, the largest nightclub in Scotland. Life was amazing. It was just incredible.
But all the while, Colin was ignoring a serious health issue.
I had 10 years of being an atrocious diabetic, sporadically checking my blood sugars. My idea of a cup of coffee would be a cup of coffee and a packet of biscuits. It was just crazy stupid. I went straight to A&E. It was the first nurse looked at my toe and went, "You're diabetic, and I think you might lose your foot."
The high sugar provided a focus for bacteria to feed on, and that's what caused this really serious infection.
Yeah.
Even though he ended up having 2 toes amputated, Colin didn't heed the warning and a few years later was back in hospital.
Can't even describe how terrible I felt.
Was it infected again at that point then?
Yeah. My consultant came in on the Tuesday and basically said it's going to have to come off. And I knew at that point we weren't talking about, removing parts of my foot. I knew that it was going to be my lower limb.
Would it be possible for us to see the stump, your leg stump at all? I really appreciate you doing this. You mentioned in the early stages of this condition, diabetes, the food that you were eating then, the biscuits you ate, the fast food, the sugary drinks, do you think there might be an element of addiction for you?
As somebody who used to be that far away from being an alcoholic, as somebody who was addicted to cigarettes, yes.
Simple as that, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Colin. Appreciate it. I think that was really interesting. Despite knowing how bad sugar can be, he continued to eat high levels of carbohydrates and sugar to the point where he had to have his leg taken off. And that really adds to this idea that sugar can be addictive, because surely if you've been through all of that and you know something's bad for you, you'd really work hard to stop it, but he just can't give it up.
To gain a better understanding of why my obese and diabetic patients find it so hard to stop eating sugar, I've put myself on a super high sugar diet. A tooth-rotting 177 grams of added sugar every day.
Okay, so I've just had lunch and I'm having a coffee now, and this pile of chocolate is my dessert. But I'm going to have this. It's a salted caramel and nut chocolate bar, and in that plate is just over 60 grams of sugar.
By day 6, I'm finding it tough going.
I'm really missing healthy food because I fill myself up on sugar and sugary foods. I miss broccoli and carrots.
Okay, so it's a Saturday morning and I've just had breakfast, a sugary cereal, which I'm kind of getting used to now.
But what I'm trying to do to keep up to the levels, just eat it really quickly. You know when you don't like something and you have to kind of do this. I never thought I'd have to do that with chocolate, but now I do. Oh, honestly, I am sick of the taste of chocolate.
On average, obesity and type 2 diabetes reduce life expectancy by up to 10 years. Most patients are desperate to cut down on sugar and lose weight. And I found some plucky volunteers who are prepared to give it a serious go.
3 of my patients who I know have struggled giving up sugar in the past are going to join me in this experiment. But whereas over the next 4 weeks I'll be binging on sugar, they are going to give it up. Because that will give me a better idea during this whole process, what symptoms they have, during the withdrawal process.
Patrick is one of my diabetic patients.
The blood sugar's just crept up a little bit.
I thought it did, yeah.
Jess eats sweets to help ease her anxiety.
And this is also one of my bigger treat stashes.
And Leslie is an NHS nurse who often gives way to temptation.
This is what I've come into this morning.
Seeing how these guys get on will let me know what side effects to expect when I quit sugar in a month.
What made you want to participate in this? What do you reckon, Jess? What's your motivation for all of this?
It gets out of hand, how much I'll eat, just depends on how bad I feel. I think it would show me that I don't need sugar. There's other ways to handle things.
What about you, Leslie? What's your motivation in all of this?
I know that my sugar levels are on the way up in my blood. And so I may be towards the pre-diabetic.
Patrick?
I've been a diabetic for nearly 10 years. Your recommended dosage is 30 grams a day, and I'm sure I'm taking more than 30 grams.
Right, well, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to catching up soon. Cheers, guys. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right, that was really interesting. We've got 3 very different people doing it for 3 very different reasons, and I will be really interested to see how they get on, because that will give me a better idea during this whole process, whether sugar is actually addictive or not.
I'm now into the second week of the experiment, and I've begun to notice a change in my body's reaction to sugar.
So let's give this a go. What's strange is, I think, is I'm getting used to eating a lot of sugar. So, well, before this would feel so alien on my palate. It just feels normal now. What's worrying me, I guess, is that I've got to such high levels. If I, when I do try to come off it, what's going to happen?
I know eating all this sugar is having an effect on my body. I can feel it. But in order to find out what it's doing to my mind, I need to access a serious piece of kit. So I'm on my way to University Hospital Aintree in Liverpool to meet an old friend of mine, a consultant radiologist, to find out a little bit more about the inner workings of the brain and addiction. The National Institute on Drug Abuse defines addiction as a disease characterised by compulsive drug seeking and drug use, despite the harmful consequences. But where in our brain do those compulsions spring from? And do our brains react to sugar in the same way they do to hard drugs? I'm hoping this MRI scan will provide some answers.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what my brain looks like, what parts of my brain are affected by sugar, and what that means, in terms of addiction. As fetching as this outfit is, and purple really does bring out my eyes, I'm going to get changed.
So, Samita, which part of my brain here is stimulated by sugar?
The part of the brain we're looking at mostly, particularly the base of the forebrain and also part of the midbrain.
So dopamine would be released by this area here, giving us that pleasurable feeling. Now, naturally, we need dopamine. It's not a bad thing, is it? We need it to reward ourselves. So when we do something nice, when we eat something good, we think, OK, that was nice, we'll go back for more.
With dopamine, it also not only affects the reward, it kind of makes you feel happy, kind of gets you into that jolly mode. It can give you an addictive feeling, give you a craving feeling.
So, Samita, I know which parts sugar affects now, and I'm investigating whether sugar is addictive. So I want to know which parts real addictive drugs like cocaine, heroin, that kind of thing, which part of my brain would that affect?
So sugar kind of acts similar in terms of where the brain structure is affected. So amphetamines, cocaine, all of those class of drugs affect the same area of the brain.
If I was to eat lots of sugar over time, I've only been doing it, for a short period.
Then what happens is the dopamine stops releasing in that area, and you'll need a lot more sugar in order to get that same effect. You could have the same thing with, like, say, cocaine or amphetamines.
What is quite scary about sugar, I think, is you don't think of it in the same way as heroin or amphetamine. You don't think of it affecting the same part of your brain as those hard drugs. And somehow, to me, I know how dangerous those drugs are. That makes sugar slightly more dangerous in a way.
Right, it's lunchtime and I am going to have a ready meal. This particular pasta has actually got nearly 22 grams of sugar in that meal. That's quite a lot. If you think about that when you're cooking, you would never add 5 teaspoons of sugar. Added sugar is loaded into processed food as a cheap way of improving its taste, increasing its shelf life and adding bulk and texture. But how does the food industry manage to pack so much sugar into what we eat without it tasting sickeningly sweet?
Just so simple. Pasta, sauce, vegetables. Easy. Full of sugar.
Writer Stephen Gates specialises in the relationship between food and science and knows all the tricks of the food industry trade.
I'm fascinated by how things work and how biology, chemistry and physics interact with our bodies and with our sensory perception. And I like tinkering.
I've come here to find out about something that's been puzzling me. I know non-diet fizzy drinks are high in sugar, but strangely, I don't find them overpoweringly sweet. Why not? To find out, we're going to make our own version of a popular soft drink, cola.
Here, I've got a strange sort of swamp mixture.
What is in there?
So if you have a little look, it is cola syrup without the sugar, without the acid and without the caffeine. And yeah, originally it was a health drink. It was stuffed with huge amounts of sugar, huge amounts of caffeine and cocaine. You'd have this stuff and you felt great. That's our base syrup. Now, what I thought we'd do is we'd do this from scratch. So what we're going to do is we're going to strain this through. If you can pour that, and we'll try and catch all the gloop. Beautiful. That should be our base cola substance.
Very bitter, but the cola flavour is on a par to what I'm used to drinking when I buy a can of cola.
All right, so let's make up our drink. Big thing it's missing is the sugar. I'll tell you when to stop.
Put it in?
Yeah, I'd go a bit faster than that if I were you. There's going to be quite a lot involved.
That's a lot of sugar.
A little bit more, a little bit more,
Wow.
a little tiny bit at a time. Whoa! That is how much sugar there is in a litre of cola.
So on a Friday night, if you order a takeout, you normally get a free litre of cola with that. And that is how much sugar is in that litre.
The big soft drinks manufacturers now offer sugar-free and caffeine-free versions of their products. But cans of cola that contain 39 grams of added sugar are still available.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Wow.
All I'm getting now is sweet sugar.
To be able to cope with the sweetness, you then have to add something to counter that. The sourness.
This feels like a pendulum that's swinging. OK, it's gone too far that way, then too far that way.
Absolutely.
And it makes you question the point of the drink at all. So why?
Yeah. OK, so citric acid, if you add that,
that's just
the
a
right
tiny
amount.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a few grams. It will raise the acidity levels. We could, at this stage, also add the caffeine. Caffeine is very, very bitter. It's firing up your bitter taste receptors.
Yeah.
Cheers.
It's still really sweet. Except now it's got a bit of a bitter aftertaste.
And that's because there's one thing still missing.
What's that?
And that's the bubbles. Lean the bottle in, press down the entire top section all the way. Come on, you can do it. That's good. Okay, so that means stop. That's it. Up you pop.
It's more like
hey!
There's definitely bubbles, yeah.
Hey.
Right, here we go.
Fantastic.
Cheers.
Good luck.
Cheers. Still sweet, but
Still sour.
because it's still sour, but the bubbles do take the edge off it that little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to be millionaires with this. Unconsciously, I'm going back to it because it's not unpleasant. I couldn't wait to put those down, but...
The vast amount of sugar there is playing against all these other sensations that are being created in your mouth.
Right.
So you're using loads of different types of sensory perception. So this is touch, these are mechanoreceptors on your tongue, to allow you to cope with a really overbearingly sweet substance.
Cheers.
So, cola's overpowering sweetness is made more palatable using other flavours and some bubbles. Perhaps it'd make more sense just to use less sugar in the first place.
Now this is kind of gross, but I've just had to get up because I've got tummy pain and my bowels have been really affected by this high sugar diet. I keep getting abdominal cramps, loose motions, it's pretty grim, and it's not pleasant at all. I suspect it's got something to do with all the sugar in my bowels attracting water, which sugar does, and making my bowel movements a bit looser. It's just unpleasant, annoying, inconvenient, and really affecting almost every part of my life.
Over the past 3 weeks, I've eaten well over 3.5 kilos of added sugar, as well as all the naturally occurring sugars found in fruit, veg, and dairy. And my body isn't thanking me for it.
It's really taking its toll on my energy levels. I'm tired and more out of breath. So my skin, I don't know if you can see this, has really broken out in tiny little spots. And they're really stressing me out. These are my favourite pants. I can't do them up.
I'm not in the best of moods either.
I find that if I don't eat sugar, I get even more irritable now. So I feel like I need to eat this to be nice to people. Which is difficult because I feel like I normally am nice to people, but I find myself snapping. I can feel the niceness returning slightly.
This experiment is having a pretty startling effect on my mood, and it feels like I'm starting to use sugar compulsively.
So, I'm really beginning to see why so many people consider sugar to be an addictive substance, but not everybody feels that way. Hi Hisham, how are you doing?
Dr Hisham Zayedine is an honorary consultant psychiatrist who researches our brain's reward systems.
There are scientists that feel that sugar is addictive, addiction being the compulsion to take something or eat something despite its harmful effects, and then suffering withdrawal effects once it's taken away. Sugar does fit that description to a degree, would you say?
Well, no, not very well, really. If we start with a sort of rather basic point, in humans, we very rarely consume sugar just by itself. To even say that of all these foods you're eating, sugar is the key ingredient is tricky. When you get that thing of eating it compulsively, the difficulty is that it's really imprecise. Well, you're not eating sugar compulsively, you're eating different kinds of food compulsively.
So why do people have such trouble cutting these things out of their food? I'm constantly talking to my diabetic patients about reducing their refined sugar intake. They put it down to being addicted to it. What would you say to them?
I'd say that actually a lot of our food choices are rather habitual. We tend to eat things that we've eaten before. You tend to pick the sandwiches you always pick. You tend to pick the same kind of foods that you always do.
So it's more about breaking the habit rather than necessarily the sugar addiction, if there is such a thing.
The people who end up successfully managing their diabetes are the ones who actually manage to change their lifestyles more globally.
So when I'm talking to my diabetic patients in the future, I should look at their eating behaviours as a whole and how that's come to be, perhaps, and how they've managed to get themselves into those habits. It is much more of a holistic approach to their health. You've given me a real different perspective on it to all the other people I've spoken to so far.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Whether eating sugar is an addiction or just a habit will remain a matter of scientific debate.
Sugar, oh my God, look at this.
What seems certain, though,
1, 2, 3,
is that there's often an underlying cause behind a dependency on sugar. And that's prompting me to examine my own sugar habits. Is it possible that I was hooked on sugar before this experiment even got started?
Full of big chocolate bars. Say I use for baking, but sometimes I just eat.
After all, my cupboards have always been full of sweet treats.
I've got lots of sugary drinks down there. They keep me going through the day when I'm at work.
Maybe I was happy to do this experiment because I've always loved sugar. There's only one person to ask.
Assalamu alaikum, Mum. How are you doing?
The woman who knows me best.
These are the kind of sweets we've had growing up. You make these yourself. You don't really buy them, don't you? I remember you used to make them all the time. Yours were much nicer.
Yeah, I used to make it. Not anymore, because I am diabetic as well, so I have to make sure we are careful.
Did I eat a lot of sweets when I was...
Yeah, you used to eat loads of sweet, and you remember Linda's shop?
Linda's shop, yeah, it's still there.
Yeah, still there. You used to go with your dad and you bring bags of full of sweets, jellies and other things.
I remember you telling me off when I used to come back from the sweet shop.
Because you couldn't wait.
I don't think she can wait either. No, Jess, these are for me. They're not for you. I quite like this one.
Yeah, made by milk. This is Barfi. You like it, you still like your sweet stuff.
I still like my sweet stuff, I know.
So, according to Mum, I've been hooked on sugar since childhood, but I want a second opinion. That's a perfect excuse to visit my favourite childhood hangout. Linda's retired now, but her son Gurdeep remains custodian of the chocolate.
Gurdeep, how are you doing, mate? Nice to see you. Do you remember me coming in here as a kid?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Used to clear the shelf.
Did I?
You did, yeah.
I mean, these are the classics here, aren't they? We've got the flakes. We've always had them. Flakes were posh when I was a kid, you see. I mean, I would never get a whole chocolate orange or matchmaker as a kid, but now I can. I am going to get them both. Here we go. Bonbons. I've got to take some bonbons.
Some fizzy laces.
Have you got strawberry fizzy laces?
Last packet.
Last packet. Cheers, they must be popular. So I mean, there's a saying, isn't there? Like a kid in a sweet shop. And this is literally me as a kid in the sweet shop. This is where I used to come as a kid. I was restricted by my 10p or my 20p, but now I've got no restrictions. It's just like pile it on. I'm loving it. I think that's a pretty impressive mountain of sugar, I would say. Right, so here is my haul from the sweet shop. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know where to start. I think I'm going to start with one of these. It really does take me back to when I was like 5 or 6 years old. It's kind of like eating my way down memory lane. Talking to my mum and Gertie really hammered home the fact that I've been eating a lot of sugar for a long time. How did this happen? Is there an underlying reason why people, me included, use sugar like an addictive substance? To get some answers, I need to delve even deeper into my past. Marie Porter is a clinical hypnotherapist.
Hi, I'm Amir. Yes, thank you.
Who uses regression therapy to get to the core of her patients' issues.
I'm really excited to get started. I'll be honest, I am very, very nervous because I don't know what you may uncover.
Hypnotherapy looks at working with the unconscious reasons why the mind is doing something.
So, in theory, this should reveal why I've been eating sweets for as long as I can remember.
So what we'll do now, then, Amir, is start the session. Are you comfortable?
I am, yes, thank you.
So when you're ready, just take a nice deep breath. Feel the relaxation as you let that breath go. Years, weeks, months, days all peel away. And what age are you in this scene?
7. I'm in a sweet shop. There's lots of sweets and chocolates and I'm choosing one.
So you're in that sweet shop and you're choosing a sweet.
They're all very expensive. I can't really buy any of the ones I want, so I buy 5-penny sweets.
That makes me feel
envious.
And I feel envious because
I can't afford the sweets that I want.
And who can afford those sweets?
Everyone else.
So I want to go to another scene now. You right now on the count of 1. Be in this scene right now. And what age are you in this scene?
18. I'm at university. I'm just meeting people for the first time. And I feel excited, nervous, like I need to make a good first impression. Like I'm different.
And I know I'm different because...
Because I'm poor.
What else do we need to know?
People come into my room and we eat cake.
So what is it that sugar does for you?
And they like me more.
And so the need that this sweet tooth fulfills is...
That it's comforting.
It's comforting, yeah. And so now, after you've done all that deep, wonderful work, you can slowly, calmly, easily come back into the room.
Okay. Thanks, Marie. That was quite intense, I think. Oh, yeah, it's interesting. I never really associated being able to now buy as many sweets as I want with not being able to afford them when I was younger.
There's a lot of understanding that happens with hypnotherapy, but there's also the unconscious work. Things start to change.
Right. Probably interesting to see how that goes, actually. I have found out something new about myself today, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, I went to see Marie, the hypnotherapist, yesterday, and actually it opened up my eyes to a number of things with regards to my own sugar habits. And I've been thinking about this really over the last 24 hours. Is that my eating habits, my leaning on sugar, my sugar dependency even, goes way back. I always knew I enjoyed a chocolate bar, a piece of cake. I didn't really think about why I was doing that until I spoke to Marie. And this whole idea of it going back to my childhood, not being able to afford things, associated it with people liking me and wanting to come and see me is, it's a real revelation for me. It makes me think about why I've been doing this for so long. And, I can understand how I might now
have a dependency on sugar because of those reasons. I went into this experiment thinking, right, let's get myself addicted to sugar, but maybe I already was. That's really a big revelation for me.
So this is my last day of my sugar binge, day 28. So I've decided to go out with a bang. I'm going to get the vast majority of my sugar intake in this one sitting, and I've got all my favourite desserts together here. Now, I would never normally eat all of this together, but it's last day and I want to make the most of it. Now, what's interesting, I thought over the 4 weeks, because I'm forcing myself to eat so much sugar, I'd be sick of the sight of it and the smell of it, but that's not the case. And I'm a bit worried really about coming off it, because even though I'm eating far more sugar than I would ever do, it's been easy. I'm looking at all of this and I'm not sickened by it. I should be. I mean, I don't even like profiteroles at the best of times. But now I do.
My month-long sugar binge has put me through the mangle, both mentally and physically. But have I done myself any long-term damage?
Your kidney function test, liver function test, and sugar readings are pretty stable, as they were before. Yeah. Essentially, normal tests don't mean that it's not affecting you. It's basically not showing up in the system yet.
I'm not surprised that my blood tests aren't that different.
The blood test here could be just deceptive, my opinion is.
Yeah.
If you continue now like that, ultimately it is going to affect liver tests, and ultimately we would see that in the picture. You're otherwise fit and healthy, and your background is that you exercise regularly. So anybody else, how would they perform if we put them to this test would be very risky, and I cannot promise anything.
No, fair enough. Well, we'll leave it at that because I want to end on a happy note. I'm glad my results are good. Well, we'll see what happens. My bloods are okay, my liver, my kidneys, that's all fine. But actually, what it goes to highlight is that blood results may not be the be-all and end-all of health, because I'm actually feeling rotten and rubbish. Tired, poor concentration. I know I keep going on about my bowels, but they are my main issue at the moment. I always need to know where the toilet is, and I've never had to do that before.
There's clearly something going on in my body that I'm not fully grasping. But there is one measurement at least that's very simple to understand.
So go on, I'm closing my eyes. Have I gone up much from...
You've gone from 69 to 71.5 kilos.
Wow, that's really depressing, because that's 2.5 kilos more than what I weighed 4 weeks ago. It's a lot. I know it will kind of, eat at me really until I lose it. So I'm determined to lose it now.
So you're going from 44 teaspoons of sugar a day to 0?
To 0 sugar. Wow. Absolutely 0. And I am going to use that as a motivational kind of factor. Let's do the BMI.
My 7-day sugar detox starts this morning, and I have everything I need to get me through this ordeal. Soup, 10 tins of. Yoghurt, 1 large tub. Antacid. Broccoli. Artificial sweetener. Mineral water. Diet soda. Magazines. And soothing music.
So it's the first day of my sugar-free diet, and I'm actually quite excited about it because after 4 weeks of eating such high levels of sugar, something like this, porridge, it feels so appealing to me. All that weight, all my spots, I just want them gone. It tastes like nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's 11 o'clock, which is kind of not quite lunchtime, and you want a little snack. So I've got a snack, which is a carrot, and that is what I'm going to eat now for my 11sies. So, I mean, a carrot isn't not nice, but it's not
I don't know. Okay, so it's only 9 p.m. and I'm having terrible, terrible cravings. I really want some nice, soft, milky truffles, you know, that have like a dusting over the top and flaky bits over the top, and then you bite into it.
If sugar is a genuinely addictive substance, then compared to other drugs, it seems the addiction is fairly mild. However, certain people, me included, can form a very strong relationship with it. So why not treat this like an addiction and go for some group therapy?
I'm not the only one doing this experiment. 3 of my wonderful patients have also agreed to kick the sugar habit. All of them have let sugar have an adverse effect on their health in some shape or form. And over the last 4 weeks, they've cut it out. They've reduced it and they've cut it out.
The 4 of us have agreed to meet up for a group chat with a counsellor.
Hi, Michael, how are you doing?
From a drug treatment charity in Bradford.
It'd be interesting to see what you guys have learned about yourself and how it's affected your life.
Before we started this experiment, I would have moments of guilt because I would sneak to the shop at some point in the day and buy something. And then I wouldn't go to that shop. I'd have to go to a different shop for something else later on. And I'd eat them on the way home. Secret eating is really addictive. And I used to do that a lot.
Well, I suffer with really severe anxiety, and one of my coping mechanisms is smoking, drinking and food. Okay. So yeah, I think definitely it's shown me that I can eat a lot healthier. It's not as hard as I'd assume it would be. So I'm hoping that, fingers crossed, it'll stay this way.
For me, it's a very freeing thing, I think, for me, because, you know, it's just one small thing in life. It's actually a big thing. And so I've been able to say, do you know what? I am who I am. I never, ever imagined in a million years any of that would just come out of, you know, stopping a packet of Jaffa cakes.
My sugar intake has been long-standing. The people who say, oh, just stop it, don't quite understand the intricacies of what it's like to have something you rely on like sugar. It's so deep-seated.
As a diabetic, I think sugar is poisonous to my body. So with this experiment, sugar experiment, it has helped me further. And I think to myself, probably it'll give me a few more years to live. Whether it's another 3 years or 5 years or whatever.
Thank you. Honestly, well done as well. It's just
well done,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Michael, thank you so much.
It opened my eyes, really. I could have been running a cannabis, crack, heroin group. Similar sort of emotions, like when people come off drugs and that, they start sort of finding themselves without being too cheesy. But that's, you know, people do start to sort of wake up to their own possibilities.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
I loved it.
Really appreciate it. Cheers.
I've been off sugar for 5 days now, and I've just had a very pleasant surprise.
I am on the loo, sorry, gross. But my bowels are back to normal. I was starting to get worried. I thought I might need a camera up there to make sure everything was all right, but actually it was just the sugar. Hallelujah! I'm really pleased to say that I actually stopped eating sugar for 4 whole weeks, like just cut it out completely. And I felt great, you know, my skin improved, my mood improved, my weight improved. And now I feel like I've got more control over it, not controlling me like it did. I set out on this journey to find out why my patients find it so difficult to give up refined sugar. But actually, along the way, I learned more about myself, why I make the food choices that I do, why I eat the amount of sugar that I do. The experts are yet to agree as to whether sugar might be addictive or not, but in my experience it shares a lot of similar traits to addictive substances. So perhaps we should just treat it as if it is addictive so we can aid people to come off it more easily. When I approach my patients now going forward, I will try and understand why they make the food choices that they do, rather than just telling them not to eat something. It may well be a longer process and I may be spending more time with my patients. However, I think in the long run, it might just save their lives.